The Vanity Project, Episode 4, Richard. After 35 years of wondering who Richard Horian was, I had found him. His initial email back to me was short, to the point, wondering what I wanted. It was a good question. Beyond my desire to know every detail of this man's life and films, what did I really want? At this point, I wasn't sure. I just needed to know who this guy was. So I wrote Richard back. I told him I was interested in his work and how he made his movies. And eventually, he wrote me again, thanking me for reaching out, touching on some of his ideas about art and his drive to create, and also how he was wounded by the reception to his films. Here's an actor reading Richard's email to me.
3% of those that have viewed my work really liked and understand it. 97% thought it was trash. I don't get it, because I've seen far more films than most people, and I thought both films I did had feeling, with thought-provoking content. Not the same old, same old. That was a mistake. It seems I cut myself from the herd. After all these years, I've realized it is still high school. Everything is a popularity contest. The films, the writers, the actors, even the composers. The herd accepts you in the pack or not. Those hoofs are sharp and relentless. Certainly not something I wish to feel more of.
Richard signed off his email like this.
I'm glad you're making a living from your creativity. I congratulate you and wish you the best. Richard Horian, Inventor.
Inventor was in all caps. I kept writing, asking more questions, and with time, Richard seemed to warm to me. The fact was, I was the only person who had ever reached out to talk to him about his work as a director. He had never been interviewed about his films in his entire life. He liked to talk about movies in general and paid special attention to a film he thought was the greatest ever made, Luciano Visconti's Death in Venice from 1971. I had never seen this movie, and when Richard discovered this, he all but ordered me to watch it.
I don't mean to hurt you and show you what we are not meant to see, but you are plenty smart and therefore deserve to know the truth. Turn the lights out. Be alone. Volume at 11. Every single frame of that film could be blown up and hung on the wall as a masterwork of art. The music is composed by Gustav Mahler, and he found in music the coexistence of heaven and hell on earth.
So I watched Death in Venice for my first time. If you've not seen this movie, it's an Italian film, an apparently faithful adaptation of a novel by Thomas Mann, where British actor Dirk Bogarde plays a sickly composer vacationing in Venice who becomes captivated by the sight of a beautiful teenage boy whom he spends the rest of the movie following. Richard told me he saw this movie multiple times when it was in theaters, which would have made him close to the same age to when I saw Student Confidential. Watching the film, I realized here was a movie entirely composed of a character yearning for something they could not possess, something just out of reach. Exactly Richard's obsessive subject in his films. With its wall-to-wall classical music, Richard's second film, Williamstown, almost seemed like his own version of this story, a movie that self-identifies as what you might call an art film, with a capital A, about a character stricken with a burden they cannot shake, this inability to connect. Why was this his obsession? At this point, I had done a lot of thinking about Richard Horian and his movies. I knew I ultimately wanted to create something about him and his work, but I didn't know what. I just wanted to gather material and figure it out later. So I asked to set up a phone call with him so I could get more of his life story on tape. Excuse the poor audio of this first phone call. About sort of where you came from. Where did you grow up?
Michigan. Detroit, murder capital of the world.
Were movies the most important thing you wanted to do when you were a kid? Was that like, the Mount Everest? Or I know you're capable and have done lots of things. Like, how did movies enter into all of this?
Movies were number one.
What I learned was Richard had always loved movies, but he started as a musician, specifically playing keyboards in strip clubs in Detroit in the 1960s and 70s.
I taught myself how to play keyboard. Just poked my finger around until the notes made sense. Didn't know what a chord was. Got better and better and better until I learned that, oh my God, all rock and roll songs ever written are based on 3 chords. Okay, I learned the 3 chords. Now I can play any rock and roll song, any basic rock and roll song. Played a lot of Wooly Bully. So this was Detroit, and I had to have money. I went to work in bands with adults, and I played in strip clubs at the age of 15.
And you're playing keyboards for these bands?
I'm playing keyboards at the age of 15 in all nude strip clubs. One after another after another.
And so you joined, were you like a pickup musician?
There was like a little, a clique. If they needed me, I would get a phone call, then I would be in a band, and it would last as long as the gig lasted in the bar. And I was pretty damn good. I can't play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star now, but I could really fly back then. And I love the fact that when they introduced the band, even at the strip clubs, that I would get a big ovation.
Yeah.
And that impressed me. See, all of a sudden, I wasn't a little child. All of a sudden, I was recognized.
Richard described going to college at Eastern Michigan University, where he studied English literature. He said he never was a good student, but it was there he learned a key piece of philosophy, something that he claims became a kind of life motto for him.
I never cared about college. I learned 2 things in college. One of them saved me, and one of them, again, like Death in Venice, ruined my life. And the thing that ruined my life, because the professor thought I was smart. So he read a portion of a poem. He said, Horian, what does that mean? I woke up because I was tired from the strip club. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. I really don't know. Come on, Horian. What does that line mean? I'm going to say it to you again. Man's reach should exceed his grasp. Okay, Horian, you know what that means? No matter what you're doing, you should reach higher. You should go higher. Whatever you accomplish, it's not enough. You should go higher. You should go beyond your ability. And if you can't accomplish it, go for it anyways and die trying. Go kicking and screaming. I said, I like that. And I modeled my life after that. You can't make a movie, Richard. You can't do this. Of course I can't, so I did it anyway.
After college, Richard sold his first invention, something that ended up being called the Clean Sweep Record Purifier. You can still find them on eBay. They were Richard's own design of a rounded brush for cleaning vinyl records. On some of the ones you can find online, they are emblazoned with the logo Horian Enterprises, Dearborn, Michigan. You'll see a later model with an address in Florida. That's because Richard had gotten his record cleaner into Kmart stores nationwide, and he started to make some real money. He built a factory in Florida where these record cleaners and various other hi-fi cleaning products could be manufactured. And he also continued to invent things and sell the patents on his inventions to make even more money. It was in Florida where he recorded his concept album, which was part of a record label that he owned that put out cassettes of albums of soft rock covers, with these tapes sold in places like truck stops and car washes in the 1980s. By this time, Richard was a success. He was not even 35, with hundreds of thousands of dollars to his name. And he had made his money without working for anyone. He had dreamed all of this into being. And the reason for that, I think, is Richard had something that most people yearn for. He had confidence, and it had gotten him far. And it was that confidence that powered Richard to sell his business, sell the factory he built and the land it was built on, and take that money and go to Hollywood. Because it was finally time for him to do something he had always wanted to do. make a movie. A movie he decided he would produce, write, direct, edit, compose and perform the music for, and star in, despite the fact that he had never done any of those things before.
My philosophy is you must know everything yourself on a movie. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
You must know how to do everything. You must be in charge of everything. If something is hard, like operating that Airy, operating the Panaflex, operating, whatever.
I mean, your credit on that film is pretty stunning in the sense that you wrote, produced, directed, starred, cast, scored, edited this movie. Yeah. So you hadn't made a film before this, is that right?
Not even practice.
God, and so you had to learn how to edit this film, for example.
Yes.
I mean, that's incredible.
But remember, I'm an inventor. I call myself an inventor. What does that mean? It means that you don't let anything stop you. Anything.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to do what you have to learn how to do, and you go to do it.
It was as if, to Richard, making a feature film was also an invention. Something for people to buy that delivered them something unique. A particular emotional experience. And there was Richard, literally on screen, at the center of it, reaching out to us, yearning to connect. There's a genuineness and a heartfelt quality to the film that I think is really special. And again, that you hadn't acted on camera before this is pretty remarkable for a scene like that. And it's funny, even in that, you have that scene where you beat the crap out of your wife's lover, and it looks like a scene from a Scorsese movie, the way it's shot. The character, though, is yearning to experience life, to experience sort of human touch. He wants to feel something. And
he wants to feel something. He wants to feel alive.
Yep.
He doesn't.
Yeah. And it's a theme between your two movies. These characters sort of yearning for touch. When you wrote that character and decided that you were going to play it, where did that come from?
Where did the concept come from?
Yeah, that character.
It's a failure. It's a failure of my own person.
Yeah, would you call it a failure? I mean, I think it's beautiful that that's a theme in those work.
Well, yeah, but people don't say I hate myself. People don't say I'm stupid. I'm a pretty unusual person. I don't like myself, but I'm dumber than shit sometimes.
When I would ask Richard about that emotional core of his movie, the one that I first saw up on a giant screen back when I was 17, Richard in close-up, literally weeping in the final shots, he shied away from talking too much about it, or he insulted himself. Really, he had a hard time talking about his movies, because we were circling around a wound close to his heart, the reception to these films.
Frankly, I don't need any more hurt. Right now, I'm going to die alone. And I was so affected by the failures of these movies, so hurt by the failure of these movies, that I just pulled the trapdoor shut and threw a blanket over my head and went in the corner.
Well, you deserve better than that, Richard. And
I do deserve better than that. And you're going to make sure that you are going to get better than that. So, because you've done this nicely for me, I'll tell you something that's important. Make movies that you are guaranteed that people are going to understand and like. Do not make a movie that you like. Be dispassionate about it. Make a movie that is mechanical. And the mechanics are to make the machine work, not to make the machine pretty that you like. Oh, what's that a pretty machine that I built?
Is that what you feel like you did?
Two machines.
That's what you feel like?
I did.
Yeah.
You saw my heart in the first movie, even though I thought I was being clever and making a standard B-movie teenage film, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't. There was a lot of Richard Horian shit in there. There was a lot of, deep filled stuff in there. And Williamstown is all that way.
Richard acknowledged here, I saw his heart in Student Confidential. But the message to me was plain. The lesson he had learned was if you make something, don't put your heart into it. Don't let them see you, because you'll just get hurt. It was incredible talking to Richard. Here I was in long conversations over the phone with the guy who had made Student Confidential. But after a couple more of these phone calls and more emails, Richard seemed to become somewhat suspicious of my inquiries. And I understood where he was coming from. What did I want from him? So I thought about it. And finally, I decided. And now was the time to tell him. Now was the time to walk down the halls of Midvale High School and go to the counselor's office and announce what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted the world to see what I saw in that theater in 1988. I wanted them to see Student Confidential. Richard's movie was out of circulation. It was unknown. I wanted to bring it back in high definition across people's screens. I wanted to do a new home video release of the movie, and also, I hoped, some theatrical screenings. I wanted to reintroduce the world to Student Confidential. But how could I convince Richard, who had been so hurt by the reception to his movies, to entrust me with getting his film out there again? Well, I made a plan, a 3-point plan. Like, if you watch a movie with a scene with British officers that are standing over a map, right, and one of them has a pointer, they always say, we will hit them here, here, and here. That's how I was thinking about this, that there were 3 points. Number 1, I would offer to fly to Richard's house in Florida. Number 2, I would interview Richard on camera extensively, since, who knows, it might be the only on-camera interview anyone would ever get of Richard Horian. And number 3, and this was the big one, I would bring with me a contract that gave me permission to take possession of any film materials of Student Confidential, wherever they are, so I could try to find someone to release the movie again. My thinking was that the strongest way to get Richard to give me permission to try and release his movie was to pitch him the idea in person, because there were too many ways for him to say no to me over email or over the phone. I told Richard I wanted to come interview him, telling him my aim was to get his whole life story on camera. And Richard, almost to my surprise, agreed. So I booked a 36-hour trip to Florida with my friend Jim Kuntz, who would shoot the interview. On the morning of the flight, Richard sent me this email, which he wrote in all caps.
I will make myself available all day. Number 1, intro and brief run over of itinerary. Number 2, breakfast or lunch or both, whatever you prefer. Number 3, have at it full force. I find these things work best if they're tackled head on, front to back. Of course, breaks as required.
It seemed Richard had his own plan of how he expected the day to proceed. As for his answers during the interview, he told me he would be, quote, a machine gun of truth, unquote. Jim and I flew to Florida. It was 1 month before the strikes in Hollywood brought work to a halt. And instead of scrambling to find a job, any job, I was on my way to meet the man who made Student Confidential. Even though everything had been arranged, when I found myself standing at Richard's door, I wasn't sure he was even going to answer it. Was all this really happening? But he did answer.
I don't think we'll see that, so you have me. So that's out of frame now. I'm going to clip this right here.
We spent over 3 hours interviewing Richard.
What made you think you could make a movie?
Sheer determination. I thought I could make a movie only by sheer determination. I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I can do it. If I say I can do it, I'm going to figure out a way to do it.
I started by asking him the details of how he put together Student Confidential with the money he made from his work as an inventor.
Finally ended up with $1 million in my hand. And I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? Your lot in life was to make movies. So make your damn movie. So I did it with money. I paid a guy $2,000 a week to be an assistant cameraman. I didn't know, but I was told that that's what you had to pay. I rented a camera. Did I rent an Arriflex, at $1,200 a week? No, I rented a Golden Panavision. And I found a director of photography, and I found this, and I found that. I stepped into those deep waters. And then I learned, my God, you do everything. The director must be all things. He must do all things. He cannot rely on his crew because his crew is usually non-existent. They're usually more of a pain than anything else. And if I asked the question to somebody, how do you do this thing? I did not trust their answer. People have a tendency not to want to see you succeed.
When we got into his casting of the film, he told this story about a surprising behind-the-scenes presence, who, by the way, is making a third guest appearance in our story.
I said, I need a star, but I can't afford a star, so I'll get the sons of stars. So I got Marlon Jackson, and I got Eric Douglas. Now, because Eric Douglas was in the movie, I got a phone call. And who was the phone call from? Kirk Douglas. And he said, Richard, I want you to come on and let's have a meeting. Let's have a talk. So I went up and I met Kirk Douglas. And he spent a lot of time marking up the script because every page was marked. There wasn't a page that did not have notes on the script.
Why didn't you take his advice?
It wasn't his movie, it was my movie. I didn't take his advice because it was my movie and I was going to do it my way. If I was going to do it his way, it would have been a regular movie.
And here's Richard describing screening his film to an audience for the very first time.
The first time I screened it in a real screening room, in a real theater, in downtown LA, nobody liked it. And I was surprised. I thought it was a good ending. Everybody said it's the worst ending they've ever seen in a motion picture. And I didn't think that anybody would be throwing laurel wreaths, but I did think that there would be a pattering of light applause or a hand on the shoulder or good job or something. But everybody just got up and walked away, didn't say a word. And the critics ripped me to shreds, absolutely tore me to pieces. And I didn't take it real well. I have to admit it openly. I was hurt. And it hurt, and it still hurts. I still feel the sting of that. But my mother, God bless her, she said, Richard, you're ahead of your time.
Richard told me more stories of growing up, his adventures in business, and the saga of making his second film, Williamstown. But as the minutes ticked by, I became more and more aware of the other reason I was there. How tucked away in a bag, I had a contract I had drawn up that I wanted him to sign for me to be able to try and get Student Confidential released again. So after my last questions, I gave him my best pitch.
We could look at is I typed up a permission slip, basically an agreement. I just need to have a piece of paper that you've signed that says you give Nick McCarthy permission to just move those materials. All I'm trying to do is rescue the last piece of something that you made because that could be restored in a way that would make it look really beautiful.
But as I kept talking, I realized the pitch was not landing. It wasn't even getting off the ground. As I tried to convince Richard how exciting it would be to rescue his film, he just stared back at me with those intense, unblinking eyes of his. The same eyes that stared down every one of those high school kids in Student Confidential. I had pitched movies to studio heads, network executives. Pitching is one of the things I do for a living. And here I was, in the moment of truth, tripping over my words, because there was one thing I didn't know. Just how deep Richard's wounds ran with this film. And then he started to talk about trauma, how when their license on the film expired, they contacted him to renew it. And they had given him their best pitch. And this is what he told them.
And I believe you will continue to steal from me. If you look at the posters of the film, they're already cutting into me and making fun of it and degrading it, so why should I possibly give it back to you? And their response was, Richard, we think this is a good film. This is one of the few good films that we have. And we think people should see it and that they will want to see it. And as time goes by, they're going to want to see it more than they ever have. This film is going to grow. It's not going to diminish. And it's only going to grow if you let us have it and continue distributing it. And I said, no, destroy it. And I recited the Jewish proverb, when you're a child, you play with childish things, but now I'm a man and must do manly things and put childish things away.
Let me translate what you just heard. When Trumma's license for Student Confidential had expired, Richard sent them a letter instructing them to destroy all the materials they had. The original negative, all the prints, everything. I sat there looking back at Richard. I was speechless. The tape was still rolling. Richard was staring at me. And at last, after some fumbling, I was able to find some words.
Question I have for you, though, is why destroy the movie?
Because I've had enough pain over it. I've been beaten up enough. Now I believe it. I believe the beatings that I've received. And I have become a recluse. I don't go out. I don't do anything. I don't venture forth. I don't try to rejoin. I have been beaten. I lost the fight. It was a good fight, Ma, but I lost. And I really tried. I really fought. Again, nobody likes you to succeed, and nobody likes you to try to do great things. And nobody likes you to try to see you exceed your grasp. Nobody. And if you do try to do those things, beware to pay the price. And I'm just not strong enough to prepare the price. And now that I'm at the journey's end, and there's no place left to go, I'll just try to enjoy. I don't really try to enjoy, I just exist.
I had forgotten how much of Richard Horian was in his character, Michael Drake. I had thought I was dealing with the self-made business tycoon, the negotiator, the persuader. But now I was face to face with the other side, the broken side, the one who was bruised and battered, the one at the end of Student Confidential who had given up. And that's the person who I needed to reach out to and offer a hand. I thought, look, if I was here to preserve this guy's legacy, at least there was his second movie, Williamstown. So I pivoted and asked Richard where those film materials were.
The canisters of film, there were five or six canisters of film. There was a negative. It was in the garage. It was all bundled up and wrapped up and put in the corner. And the garage, it wasn't climate controlled, but it was not never brutal, never brutally cold, never brutally hot. It was in a good place. So it was protected. And it sat there for a long time, a year, or more than a year. But it always bothered me. It always felt like there was a specter in the house that was going to come and get me. It always felt like it was there, and it was there to remind me that I was a failure. And after a while, I just couldn't stand it anymore. Every time I went into the garage to get into my car, I walked past those canisters of film, and it killed me every single time. All of the thoughts and feelings came rushing back in. And I could not keep them out. I could not rationalize them. I could not put them asunder. They were there, and they were part of me. And they were, what? A reminder of my failure. So finally I threw them out.
And where did you throw them out?
The garbage. Where did I throw them out? I threw them out in the garbage.
Did you put them, though, next to the garbage cans?
Put them in the bin.
All the cans.
Two or three at a time because of the weight.
Okay. So was that all in one fell swoop?
No, once a week. Once a week it hurt, once a week it hurt, once a week it hurt, and it hurt more as I got towards the negative.
And then?
Gone. Then gone. Gone for all time.
Richard was determined to eradicate his legacy. After a while, we packed up and said goodbye, and as I started my long journey home, I began to think about some of the things Richard had told me. There was one thing I couldn't get my head around. How he had said his life's motto was, your reach should exceed your grasp. But now he was telling me no one wants to see you succeed, that exceeding your grasp wasn't worth the price. So was I supposed to give up too? After 35 years? Or, like when Michael Drake faced off against that street gang, was I not going to go out without a fight? The Vanity Project is a production of Topic Studios, presented by SpectreVision Radio and made in association with Severn Films. It was created and narrated by me, Nicholas McCarthy, produced by Nicholas McCarthy with Graham Resnick, edited and mixed by Graham Resnick. The video editing for our episodes was done by Zena Gray. Special thanks to Jim Kuntz for capturing my interview with Richard Horian in his home. The voice of Richard Horian's email was performed by the amazing Paul Gaeta, who I met 25 years ago on an online message board when I was looking for information about a series of fundamentalist Christian movies shot in Iowa in the 1970s. Paul was the only person who ever responded, and we've been friends ever since. Much of the music you've been hearing was composed and performed by Richard Horian, written and recorded for the film he set out to destroy, Student Confidential. We'll see how successful he was at that. Stay tuned.